For centuries, society has imposed a narrative of decline about aging. We see it everywhere in the media, social media, in magazines, in advertisements, and we even hear it in the stories that we tell ourselves. We've allowed aging to be defined by what we lose rather than what we gain. Women, especially, believe that their value diminishes and that their beauty fades with each gray hair and every wrinkle. What if I told you that aging doesn't diminish us, but that it expands us? Imagine a world where aging is not feared or shunned, but accepted as a natural part of our journey. Today, I'd like to show you that while aging is inevitable, what we believe about it is optional. And it begins with reframing the narrative that we embody in our society. So let's consider for a few moments the language or the narrative that we embody in our society. The everyday language that we use is anchored in the physical characteristics of aging, right? We talk about decline, we talk about feeling frail, weak, slow, forgetful, over the hill. There's an inherent negativity in that narrative. And to compound all of this, the possibility of developing chronic illnesses makes that even worse. As a physician, I've had the privilege for caring for people for over 2 decades, all stages of adult life. And I've seen the challenges that come with getting older. And women in particular experience not just physical change, but emotional changes as well, marked by menopause, which brings with us potentially years of hot flashes and joint aches and pains, insomnia, and mood swings, just to name a few. But what's most disheartening to me is not just the symptoms themselves that we resign ourselves to experiencing. What's most disheartening is the resignation itself. It's the mindset. It's the very idea that we seem to want to endure this experience in silence. And we retreat into the shadows of life, becoming invisible, even as we try to hold on to a sense of dignity. My experience of aging mirrors that of many of the women in society and the women that I see daily in my practice. I too initially viewed aging from the lens of deficit and disempowerment. My very first hot flash seemed to herald the beginning of the end of the best years of my life. I resisted the joint aches and pains, and I spent years coloring away my gray hair. Then one day, my body seemed to completely betray me. I developed what I thought was sciatica, and it was life-changing. It started insidiously, like a slightly achy lower back, but over the next few months, the pain became debilitating. And I found myself trying to catch a connecting flight one day, and I was not able to walk as quickly as I used to. I found that my right leg was dragging behind me, and it felt very, very weak. And based on my professional experiences, my mind flashed ahead to the thought or the prospect of multiple surgeries and even become disabled in a few years. And that thought terrified me. And at that moment, I decided that I was not going to be defeated by the changes that were happening that I was ill-prepared to handle. I had spent years learning about the human body, yet and still, menopause was allocated to about 1 hour in medical school many years ago. And so I decided that I was going to take matters in my own hands. So with the help of a personal trainer, I essentially rebuilt my body to be stronger than ever. I went from shaky legs and wobbly ankles on step-ups to now being able to lift 225-pound weights safely. I essentially made a mental shift, adapted, and reclaimed my life. So instead of years of decline ahead of me, instead of descending into frailty, I can now conduct my life even better than I did in my 40s and in my 30s. And I can be with my grandchildren and have all the energy that I need. Imagine I did this in my 50s. Basically, reinvented myself. So when I talk about being pro-aging, I often get puzzled looks from people. They don't understand. But it's because I now see it more than just biological change. There is a whole aspect of aging that we never discuss in our society. When we say someone is old, we need to understand the depth, the gravitas that comes with that statement. These are people who carry with them decades of wisdom and knowledge that only experience can bring. You see, when we're young, we're accumulating experiences, but it's in aging that we make sense of those experiences, right? It's in aging that we are able to truly find ourselves and truly do the things that we really want to do unencumbered. There's an old saying, never regret growing older. It's a privilege denied to many. And that really hits home for me, right? Aging is a gift. It's a chance, given the time, to deepen connections and relationships, create legacies, and live with a deeper sense of purpose. So how do we reframe the narrative? We reframe the narrative by shifting from an anti-aging and helpless resignation language to a language that is pro-aging and filled with vitality and empowerment. Let me share a quick story about one of my patients. Let's call her Helen. Helen just turned 88. When Helen retired, she decided to pursue a lifelong dream, painting. So at 70, Helen enrolled in art classes. At 80, Helen had her first gallery exhibition. And last year at 87, she sold her first piece of art. Okay? So when society is telling Helen she should slow down, Helen is just getting started. And she's an inspiration to me and to all who know her. So, aging does not have to limit possibilities. There are opportunities that come with aging that we couldn't even anticipate. Aging gives us a chance to reinvent ourselves, to explore identity, to pursue passions that we were too afraid to pursue when we were younger. And we finally feel free. We feel free to do that without the fear of youth, without societal expectations of perfection. So I challenge you today to rethink what aging means for you. Let's reframe the narrative. Let's consider that aging is not the enemy and that it's not a descent into the shadows of life, but it's an ascent into the best years of our life. It's a privilege that should be honored and celebrated.